Hello, my name's Jessica. I'm one of the clinical trainers here from the pharmacy department and the digital hospital team. Today I'm going to be showing you and giving you a bit of an overview of the software that we'll be using once we go live. So for people that haven't seen this software before, it's a bit of an introduction, but it's also a refresher for people that have seen this software before. So the main icon that we use for pharmacists is what's called PowerChart. So once we open up our IMR, you can see you've got the P here for the icon. So double clicking on that one there will bring up the PowerChart. So usually we'll be putting our Nerval username in this section, but as we're in training mode, we'll just be putting in a generic pharmacy login. So this defaults to what's called the multi-patient task list. We'll be talking about this particular task list in future sessions. So if I want to show you how to search for your patient, so moving over to your magnifying glass, it's really important that we don't just put our UR number in, because this UR is not necessarily unique to the Logan Hospital. If this number is also over at the PA, it could potentially be bringing up patients from the PA or any other hospital that's gone digital. So to make sure that we've got the right patient, it's always good to have a few identifying information in there. So you are going to be putting in the doctor's surname of our patient and their first name. And you can see here we've got the correct patient of Everett Doctor and also where they're allocated at. Down below you'll see they've got all the encounters they've been at the hospital at that particular one. You'll see there's a no visit. We never entered this one and put any information. It's purely for administrative purposes only. You can see this patient has had an outpatient appointment and they've also had an inpatient appointment. You can also note with the inpatient appointment, they've had a start date, there's no end date, so this patient is still in hospital. So we're going to click into this particular encounter. This is where we'll be working today. So this opens up this patient's chart. So just to show you a little bit of information in navigating around this one, I'll bring your attention up to our taskbar at the top here. So to get all the stuff that we're going to be using, it's a good idea to expand your taskbar to make sure that we've got all the information. So as you can see, there's extra things that we need to expand. Hovering it over will bring you up the 4 cross. Clicking down, and now I've got extra functions here as well. Bringing your attention down to the next section, we have here in the blue what's called the banner bar. This has got all your patient's vital information. For example, I can double check I've got the right patient. So we've got Everett, we've got his UR. Underneath we've also got his allergies as well. And if we've got no known allergies, that'll be reflected there too. As you can see, it is hyperlinked. So by clicking on that, you can actually go to the allergies screen and see what's actually in there. Moving across, you can see the patient's date of birth. You can also see their gender, age, their current weight. If they've been weighed within the last 30 days, that will be populated there. We can also see where they're located in the hospital. If there was a doctor allocated to them, they would be in here as well. And importantly, we can double check that we're in the right encounter. So we can see, yes, we're in the inpatient, and like I said, we've got the right patient. So moving down to our menu screen, I'm just going to go through each tab and just give you a bit of an overview of what they mean. So it automatically defaults to our patient summary. This is a bit of a snapshot of our patient. As you can see along the tabs here, we've got a bit of an S-bar happening. So situation background, assessment, recommendation. We'll also add in a D for discharge as well. So having a look at our situation background, it gives you a bit of a snapshot of the patient. For example, if they have any allergies, alerts and problems, any family history, social history. If this was actually minimized, you can actually see by the number 1 being next to allergies that there actually is some information next to that one, and you can go into it and have a look. So now I can see I've got 1 penicillin allergy there as well. We can also see with their alerts and problems what they've actually come in with. So they've been diagnosed with community-acquired pneumonia and a pulmonary embolism while they've been in this admission. We've also got their previous medical history down in this field here as well. Hovering over it will also give you a little bit more extra information about that one too. Hovering over these tabs, you can see that yes, they are a current smoker. Yes, they also drink alcohol currently daily as well. Having a look through, you'll see that we can bring up some patient information, pathology results. Pathology is also integrated. Family history, like I mentioned. You can see that the mother had a heart attack, father has diabetes. You You can also just change the layout of this if you wish or want to. For example, we can change the colour if you feel inclined to by hovering over this icon, colour theme, and changing that section to purple so it might flag out to you. You can also change the layout if you like, so by clicking on drag and drop, you can change that flag events and putting it down there if you want to just utilise it to the way that you think looks out to you. By saving your functions and anything that you do in here, it's really important that you just exit out the door when you're exiting this screen. Otherwise, if you exit out through this red box here with the white cross in it, you won't be saving any of these saved functions. So moving on to managing deterioration. So this just replaces our add score that we're currently using. So this just pops up if there's anything that's deemed to be critical. So for the moment we'll acknowledge and suspend that. And you can actually see automatically down here in the red function, this is the one that's actually triggered it by the red box here. Hovering over, you can see what the value is as well. So you can see that you've got your respiratory rate, your oxygen, your blood pressure, heart rate, temperature, glucose, all those things are still in there as well. As you can see, we've only got one set of information in here at the moment. As extra information is added, it will also connect and you'll be able to see a trend. The next tab down is our medication list. So on the medication list, we can see that this patient has already got some documented medications. And what it means by documented, it's another term for their home medications or medications they were taking at home. Those terms are interchangeable as well. If the doctor's got any medications charted, that will be up here as well, but as ordered medications. We'll have a look at the chart a little bit later on. We'll also be showing you in future sessions how you can actually document your medication histories as well. We can also have a look and see that there's some orders already been generated for this patient. So these are some nursing care orders that have been flagged as well. So just for us to take note of, not to actually need to follow up on. So this brings us next to the MAR summary. So the MAR summary shows you all the medications that a patient's been off across encounters. So not just necessarily this recent admission. However, to be able to see those medications, you do need to change your function or your filters up the top here. So by changing my filters, I can change this back to 2015. We can see this patient has salbutamol in 2016 as well. You can't actually edit anything from the screen, it's just purely just a record to have a look at what's been administered historically, but also for future medications that are planned for the future. The next screen, what's called a MAR or a medication record as well. Currently nothing's charted for our patient, but as we will look into future sessions reconciling and reviewing, we'll be able to see medications that are charted. You can also see that there's different ways to view this medication. We've got time view, class view, route view, taper view and plan view. It's really, really important when you're in the MAR and the MAR summary to make sure that you do change your filters to all medications rather than all active medications. Because if it's just on active medications, it won't show you anything that's been discontinued or any stat doses that have been given to the patient as well. Moving next down, that we've got our allergy screen. So allergy just shows you with the patient what they're allergic to. And as we can see with our patient, we've got penicillin. And as I pointed out before, there are other ways that you can get into this screen. This penicillin here, you can see that they have a mild reaction and they get a rash. You can also note that there's a green tick next to the penicillin, and this just purely means that it's been entered incorrectly. And therefore, if the doctors do try any sort of penicillin medication in the future, it'll automatically pop up and say there's a penicillin allergy as well. Again, we'll show you how to accurately document allergies in later. The next tab down is our interactive view. So the interactive view is predominantly a nursing function, however we can add in features if we need to. But this is here where the nurses will be adding in their vital signs, such as their observations. We can also add in measurements as well, so we can got our weight of our patient and our height if you are looking for these features and you can't find them up the top here. We've also got some other like advanced graphing if we're looking at different type of insulin trends and things like that. So there's useful information we can look for that. Again, we'll go into more detail later on. Our next tab down the bottom is our results screen. So rather than having to flick into OzLab or OzCare, our results will actually populate in the PowerChart as well. So we can see this patient has had a recent full blood count and also their INR done as well. We can also have a look at medical imaging from here. We can see this patient's had a chest x-ray and a pulmonary angiogram. By clicking on the actual x-ray, It will bring up the notes with this patient. It won't bring up the actual image itself, so you still will need to use signups if you have to review that one, but the notes will be here. And just escaping to get out of that screen. There's other things that you may be able to see from this area as well. You can also look at ECGs that have been incorporated into. This patient doesn't currently have one. So across we've got our activities and interventions. So if we do have any interventions against medications or charting and we document them, then this is where the screen will populate through as well. If we've been flagged for any clinical reviews, so also be clicking up here as well. We will have clinical reviews already referred to us when we create our patient list, but again, we'll look into that in the future sessions. Pharmacy consults will also pop up here, so mandatory when we first need to see the patient, but if the doctor flags us to come back and see our patient for another example, they'll flag in here as well. Although there's filters here, it obviously doesn't take away from good communication that the doctor should be coming and telling us if they do want us to see a patient specifically for something. We do have our order screen. So this order screen is not just purely for medications, it's also for, like I mentioned, consults, it's also for following up on medications. Any sort of nursing administrations can also be ordered from here. Labs can be ordered from here, x-rays can be ordered from here. Obviously this is predominantly going to be for the doctors to use. We can order our medications if we're putting people on nicotine patches from this screen as well, but again we'll show you that in the future. If we do complete any forms, for example our smoking cessation forms, they'll be documented under this section here as well. So moving down to the next tab, we have our clinical notes view. So currently it's telling me that we don't have any clinical notes, but again we can change our filters on this one as well. So this is only showing me the last 6 months. So again, same thing as like we did in the MAR summary, we can change our search criteria and go back 2 years and see if there's anything there. So by doing that, I can see I've actually got some progress notes. Outpatient respiratory, and now I've got some notes there that I can have a look at. So this is like Eric as well. So just on that note, Eric will no longer be predominantly being used once we go live. However, you still will be able to access it for anything historical, so any previous outpatient appointments and things like that, and go from there. You can also change your filters and what you're looking for. So at the moment it's by type, so for progress notes, but you can also change it to by date as well. So we know that we can look at the 14th of August 2016. We also can go down to our next screen, which is called alerts and problems. So here you can actually see what their current diagnosis is and any of their previous medical history as well. And if you note one's doing their history and there's something that's missing from this one and you're certain that they should have it, for example they might have hypothyroidism, you can actually add that problem in there as well, or let the doctor to add that one in there. The next tab down is our documentation one. And this is here we would be adding any of our clinical notes, such as our medication action plan or any clinic notes that we may need to add throughout the system. Again, in future sessions we'll show you how to document and add those notes into this section here. So we can actually see we've also got our clinic notes already here as well, which is good to see. Moving down to the next function, we've got one called continuous doc. So continuous doc is just basically a way that you can scroll through them all quite quickly. So just for filters, we want to be able to see those reports from the last couple of years. You may need to change the time frame. So as it is, it's defaulted for the last 24 hours. Like we've shown before, you can always change your filters and put what date in there. So we'll just go back to early 2016 and end it on today. And by applying those filters, we've now got our outpatient respiratory documents. So just letting you know, see how it's sort of highlighted here, it shows that you're in this particular document here as well. By just continually scrolling down, moving through my list, you can see now I've moved from X-ray to X-ray in here as well. And this is why it's called continuous documents as well. The good thing about this screen, and be quite useful, is you can actually search for particular documents if you like. So clicking on the binoculars, you can actually search a keyword and actually highlight in your documents as well. It doesn't automatically take you to it, but you can actually easily see it. So it might be useful if you're looking for particular laboratory values or particular studies that may have been done, like for example respiratory and FEV1. You can always just search that there and it'll be able to bring that up for you, so you don't have to go looking for specific outpatient appointments and hoping that it may be in there. The Next document down is the patient's information. Just give you a bit of an idea about the patient's sort of demographics, if they're married, if there's any English problems as well, they might speak another language. You have other demographics as well if we need it, not that we need to use it as much. You can change within encounters within this field as well. I know I'm in the current encounter by the little X that's generated here too. There's a field for the lines, tunes and grade summary. There's obviously nothing there at the moment. It's another way that we can have a look at data too. The next tab down is our histories tab. So this just shows us about our family history as well, so we can always add this can also be added as well. If this patient's had any procedures, like any surgical procedures, stents, lap choles, appendix taken out, this will all be documented in here as well. The next tab is your social history, so you can find that you've got tobacco. We can always annotate and add this in here if it hasn't already been done, alcohol, if there's any other history that we need to add in here. For our paediatric pharmacists, our next tab is our advanced growth chart. So we can actually go through and have a look at the height and weight suitable for ages, boys and girls at different age ranges, and have a look at the average and make sure that that's an average for that child. And it also gives you some different reference ranges as well. If the patient has any previous or future past appointments, this is another field that we can have a look in here as well. The next tab down is our Learning Live. So this is another way that we can actually search going through here. If we can't remember how to do something, we can always just have a search through here to go through and get a little bit more information on how to actually look for something. For example, how to add an auto text, popular topics down here. When we go live, you'll be able to access the viewer from this tab as well. Training, it won't actually go through the viewer, but there will be a link to go through the viewer. So those people that are familiar with the viewer, you'll still be able to access patient information from other hospitals, other Queensland hospitals that haven't gone digital. Next tab down is our immunisation history. Again, maybe more important for our paediatric pharmacists, and having a look in here and see what vaccination this patient has had as well. For those that are doing clinical research, we have our next tab down here. We can also have a look and see if our patient is on any clinical trials as well by clicking on this section too. So the last tab down here, we've got plans of care and the summary. So if the doctor's going to be documenting a plan for this patient, it's going to be in here as well. For example, they may be only on IV antibiotics for a couple of days, and that'll be documented in there as well. So it just gives you a bit of an overview of what PowerChart looks like, and a chart of a patient and different functions and features that we'll be able to do. Future sessions will go through more pharmacy-specific things like how to add in medication, add in allergies, reviewing, reconciling, discharges and all those sort of things. But that's just it for today. Hope you guys have learnt something. If you have any extra additional questions, feel free to come find us when you do. Otherwise, don't forget we will be having practice labs running throughout October. Thank you.